Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I wanted to talk about this new AR-15 build I've been doing over the past few weeks. I meant to actually do a video on this sooner, but I was having a lot of issues with it with the gas system, which I'll talk about in more detail later. But I wanted to get out of the way first of all, why am I doing an AR-15 build when normally I do videos on AK and AK related stuff on this channel? And the reason for that is not that I'm tired of AKs, nor have I been kidnapped and brainwashed by the AR gang, but what it actually is that I wanted something that could shoot in 5.56. This is my 545 SLR 104 FR, which has appeared in like every single video I've done, and I wanted ideally to get a 5.56 AK, but I was looking at the prices of them, and they're quite expensive at the moment because, well, they probably always will be at this point, but that was the big thing, is just I wanted something that would shoot 5.56, and I already had a DPMS lower, which I have on here, so that I had sitting around for quite a while now, and I just wasn't doing anything with it. A long time ago I sold the upper, so I decided that I would try out building an AR-15 myself, and I decided to go with a side-charging MG4 from Gibbz arms. And so far it's been working really well. I will do an actual video, I'm thinking, probably on this upper itself, because it has a lot of interesting features and there's not a whole lot of info out there, but it seems like a really good piece, and it has held up really good so far for me. And I'm not going to go over every single part, and also in the future of this channel I'm not going to be doing a bunch of AR-15 content. I will be branching out a little bit into it to just kind of talk about a few things if there's anything of particular interest on this, but in general I will be continuing to build this. Currently, this is kind of just like a version 1.0.0, so it's just like in its most minimum form. As you can see, I have a scope on here. This is actually the same scope I would normally have on my AK. I just have it because I haven't gotten around to getting iron sights yet, because I spent everything on the build itself, so I'm all tapped out at the moment. But I'll get around to that in a bit, and yeah, once I get those, this will just be going back on the AK, because as it is currently, I didn't do an actual video about this, but I did replace this mount on this scope here to be a lower mount to fit better on the AK. And if it's on the AR though, well, at least me, with how I get a cheek weld, it's not comfortable at all. I really have to crush my cheek down. I'm like getting it all the way up here just to be able to see through the scope, and even then I'm not actually able to see through it perfectly, so that's not great, but it will be fixed in time. I don't know what I'm going to do in terms of like a more permanent optic solution on this, but we'll get around to that, and I will cross that bridge when I need to. But now to just talk about a few of the parts I'm using here, I'll just, I'll kind of cover the highlights. I'll put a full parts list probably in the description. If any of you are interested, you can check there, because I don't want to go over like every single part, it's not that interesting. But just in general, I went with a 18-inch Ballistic Advantage barrel, which so far has been incredibly accurate, and it's been awesome to kind of test out the accuracy on a 5.56 with something that is capable of it, as well as this. I'm using an AAC flash hider, which is another part that's probably going to be temporary. I don't know. I need to do further testing on this flash hider. I actually just had it sitting around from a previous gun I had, which I also got rid of, but yeah, it seems like it might be a pretty good one, this flash hider, but I haven't actually tested it at night yet, or in the dark, in a dark room or whatever, to see how well it performs. And then here, this is an important part I want to talk about specifically, and that is the gas block, the gas tube, the entire gas system. I'm using a JP Enterprises adjustable gas block and a melanited gas tube, because I was actually having a lot of issues when I first took this out. As I said, I meant to do this video a few weeks ago, and because I finished it a few weeks ago, but originally I had a Caw Valley, just a standard gas block on here with just set screws. And the big reason behind it, well, there was actually a few reasons why I got that one in specific. The big one, as I was kind of mentioning earlier, is I'm already tapped out, and so I got the cheapest gas block I could possibly find. That wasn't like complete rubbish, or at least it didn't seem like it at the time. I was wrong, but you know, when I got it, like even before I installed it, it was looking really iffy. If I just rubbed my finger on it like this, on the old Caw Valley one, it would actually rub off the finish, and my hand would just be totally black. And that was before even shooting, so it wasn't like there was like carbon or anything on it. It was brand new from the factory like that, which was, I should have known at that point that something was up. But I installed it fully, and I thought it'd be fine, but I got to the range, and it was getting constant short stroking, and even with the hottest ammo like M855 and some 77 grain stuff I had, it would not cycle at all. It was getting constant failures to feed. So I decided, like, okay, I really shouldn't have wasted the money. I'll just bite the bullet and buy another really good gas block, and this one worked perfectly. I got it adjusted. I actually need to tune it a bit better. I got it backed out pretty much all the way to let in a ton of gas because I was having those issues, and I was trying to get this to cycle, I forget if it's Norma or Nosler ammo, I'll put it up here on the screen, but I was having a ton of issues with this 55 grain stuff that's supposed to like last for a long time that I've had sitting around for a while, and yeah, I could not get it to cycle still, but I tested it with every other type of ammo, and now this works perfect, but we'll see. In the long run, maybe there is still an issue. Doesn't seem like it though, but time will tell. But one more thing about that is what I noticed when I was installing that Kaw Valley one is, you know, once I actually tightened down the set screws, it would lock down, it wouldn't move at all. But when it was just sitting here, I could like fully rotate it. Whereas even when I didn't have this JP Enterprises one tightened down, it wouldn't move. I mean, it wasn't like rock solid either. Like if I pushed it with enough force, I could move it, but I mean, literally there was no tension at all with that Kaw Valley one, so I could just sit here all day and just spin it around the barrel. Next part I specifically wanted to talk about is this handguard. I'm using another part that I will probably switch out because of the gap here. You can see the gas tube is a little bit exposed, and the gas block is completely exposed, which I mean, I noticed it seems like a lot of people, and I'm not super familiar with ARs because I mostly do AK stuff, but it seems like a lot of people with the ARs complain about exposed gas blocks. I don't really think it's an issue because my hand's never this far forward anyway. I'm not going to touch it. But I would prefer to have it at least somewhat covered for protection, especially the gas tube. It's not too much uncovered, but it is just a little bit. If I got 1 inch longer, this is a 12-inch handguard. If I got a 13-inch handguard, that would have been perfect. Currently, I'm looking at like a 13.3 or 13.5-inch handguard. The ones I'm specifically choosing from are just those sizes, and those would work pretty well. They've covered up completely. And yeah, the reason I got a 12-inch was just because I did not measure it correctly. So since I have a rifle-length gas system, I just kind of looked up the specs on what an M16's handguard is, and I thought it'd be fine, which it didn't, because this is Freefloat, so you don't have the delta ring and all of that stuff back here, which would normally take up a bit more space. And if I did have that, then it would be a perfect fit. But yeah, I didn't account for that, and I don't know why I didn't remeasure it. And one more thing that I almost forgot, even though it's really important on this handguard, is that the barrel nut that it comes with is pretty awful. It doesn't interface with a normal barrel nut wrench, so I actually had to use a crescent wrench to put it on. So I don't know exactly how torqued down it is, which is really, really bad, I know. However, I do know what 40 foot-pounds feels like of torque, so I was at least able to get it to that, but I have no idea exactly what it's torqued to. I just know that it's tight enough to where the barrel doesn't have a chance of like flying off, but otherwise the handguard is held up well, but I would absolutely not recommend it because you just can't get it on like a normal barrel nut. And then last part I'll talk about in depth in this video here is the MG4 upper itself. Well, I say I'm going to go in depth on this. I won't go super in depth because I am planning on doing a specific video just on this, but to just cover a few basics, I chose the MG4. Gibbz Arms offers a G4 as well, and their G4 is a version that does not have the forward assist. It's just kind of a flat-sided, and actually I would have preferred to have that, but the reason I didn't go with it is because I believe that the G4 is actually made out of 6061 aluminum and not 7074 or 7075, whichever it is. And I didn't really trust that enough for durability's sake, but yeah, I would have preferred to not have this because I've only ever used this once, and that was on my old DPMS when I rode the charging handle forward after a press check, and then it didn't go fully into battery, and that was literally one time, and then I just pushed it forward all the rest of the way. Only one time, and that was user error. So I don't really see the point in having it personally, but I know a lot of people swear that you definitely need them, so it's not the biggest thing. It's kind of annoying from like a minor just kind of storage perspective that I have. So this is the charging handle's on the left side, very similar ergonomically to like an FAL, though it is Actually, so it's more of like in the position of an FAL, but ergonomically, which I quite like, is this lever feels a lot like a AK's charging handle, and as I keep saying, I prefer AKs generally, so making this as ergonomically similar to an AK as possible. Actually, that was kind of a big thing with this build, and there's another thing I want to mention about that, but let me get onto this first before I go off on that side tangent. This does latch, however, so you can see there's a locking latch here. They offer a different version of this charging handle that has a detent instead, but the latch seems like a more sure option. I don't remember if it was with the detent version or if it was with a different charging handle, maybe one of their old ones. But this is supposed to be non-reciprocating. But if I remember right, people were saying that whichever of those old charging handles it was, they had an issue where there just wasn't enough holding them up here. So even though they're not supposed to reciprocate, they would kind of move back. I have seen that on a few guns that are supposed to have a non-reciprocating charging handle. But yeah, this one doesn't move at all, so that's good. But yeah, that about covers everything on this build that I wanted to talk about specifically. Now as for what I was saying earlier about AK sort of ergonomics, I do really prefer the Rock and Lock magazines, and I honestly do not know why. I was kind of like searching for quite a while to see online, like, why do people prefer straight pull mags to rocking and locking the magazine in like an AK, where, you know, you lock in the front first and then click it in the back. I know some people say it's like more awkward. I think it's just a thing where it's like once you get used to it, it's not really awkward at all. But the reason I do prefer this style is because I can take a fully loaded mag, which this is 30 rounds, and just put it in with minimal effort. Whereas on the ARs or on any straight pull mag, which seems like a lot of them are nowadays, you have to, well, add another step to it. So before I go and grab that again, I know I kind of like, I really care about this point a lot about mags, but like normally on an AK, you just take your magazine out, you insert the front, and push back, and it's done. That's I guess you could say it's a 3-step process. You could make it more if you really want to break things down for like a robot, but general like human steps is like 3 steps. However, on this AR, it's more of like, so you take your mag again, you insert it, but then you have to make sure it clicked in, and then you can either, you know, hit it in, or you can just like push pull, which actually you should probably do that anyway. So you'd put it in, make sure it clicks, and then push and pull to make sure it doesn't fall out. And not a fan. It seems like an additional unnecessary step. So anyway, enough of me bitching about that. The reason I'm mentioning that and about the ergonomics is recently I kind of have become fascinated by the new Chinese QBZ 191 rifle, which isn't a copy of the AR-15, but it has a lot of similarities to it and how they set it up. It even has like a buffer tube and everything. But one thing I think is really cool about that is they do rock and lock the magazine in, and I know you can get lowers like that, like the PSA KS47. The MGI Hydra, I believe it's called, also has that, where you can switch out the magazine well, and that's pretty cool. Honestly, I'm thinking about building another AR that can take AK mags. I'm researching a lot of stuff with it. It seems like it might be more trouble than it's worth, and I've been kind of researching a lot of stuff about building both ARs and AKs in general lately. So honestly, I'm thinking I might just build an AK in 5.56. As I was mentioning earlier, the cost is a bit expensive right now to buy one, but it wouldn't be as bad to build one. So we'll see. It'd be a lot to get tooled up though. But yeah, that's now that I got this gas block, like that was the big issue earlier, was the constant short stroking, but now that I got that fixed, there's no real issues. There's no issues I can fix with this setup. My only issue that I could complain about, which I keep coming back to, is the mags, but there's absolutely no helping that on a regular AR-15 like this. Let me know if any of you have any other questions. Let me know if you have any experience with those AK magazine lowers. I don't know if it would really be worth it. As I was mentioning, it seems like there's a few complications that might just be way more annoying than they're worth to try to work through on that. But we'll see. Otherwise, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.